Hello and welcome to the High Note Podcast. I am your host, Sean Smith. Hey, thanks for joining me, everybody. Happy 2026. This is the first podcast of 2026, but I feel like it's been in the works for a while. My guest is Just Wiln. He is a singer-songwriter from New Jersey, and I've been a fan of his for years now, but primarily it was his photography. We're both landscape photographers when we're not doing music stuff, which I think is a funny connection. And I saw that he had a music page, so I started following that. And I've been a fan of Justin's for, a few years now. And so he's released a lot of singles. And in December of 2025, so just last month, he released an album called Primer. And I absolutely loved it. And then after that, just this month, so I'm recording this in January of 2026, he released a song called Your Magic, which you can listen to on all the social medias, but you can listen to it on YouTube, really anywhere you listen to music, Spotify, Bandcamp, which is also where you can get his music. So if you're just listening to this and you're not reading the show notes, all the links will be in the show notes, but you can spell it as Justwiln, Just Wiln. So, I absolutely love this conversation. It's great to hear his insight on things and how this album came to be, because this is his first album, even though he had released a lot of music before this. So if you've gotten this far and you haven't already, please subscribe to the High Note Podcast anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You can also check me out on social media. It's at High Note Blog. If you like to read things and not just listen to things, it is a blog too. So check that out at highnoteblog.com. And there's also a newsletter, which you can sign up for at highnoteblog.com. I also started this buy me a coffee thing. I've been doing this since I think the first podcast came out in 2013. So I've been doing this now for 13 years. I've never had a sponsor. I've never gotten paid for it, since it was never a podcast when it was at the newspaper, which is where the High Note started. And back then it was just a blog, which is where the name High Note Blog came from. The podcast I've never been paid to do the podcast, but I put out the call for sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or the blog or the newsletter, or any combination of those things, you can reach out to me, Sean, SHAUN, at highnoteblog.com, or just hit me up on any of the social medias. So, I think that's enough selling on my end. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did, and please listen to the album Primer. I absolutely loved it. And here's my interview with Just Wiln. Just Wiln, welcome to the High Note Podcast. How are you doing today?
Sean, it's awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I feel outstanding today.
That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, and it's great to talk to you. It's funny that the reason that I found out about your music is because I'm a fan of your photography page, the Justyn Wielenta page, and then I think you posted a clip of your music, and then ever since I've been following both pages. So as a fellow photographer, it's good to have you on the podcast.
Sean, that means a lot to me, man. And I'm sure you see that I enjoy your work every day. You're posting sunrises and beautiful shots of your surfing and what you do. And I'm a fan of you as well. So those words ring extra. I'm appreciative a little bit extra because of that, because I respect you as an artist as well.
Oh, thanks so much. Appreciate that, Justin. Yeah, and I the reason I wanted to have you on is because I know that you, most recently, you just released a single called Your Magic, but then right before that, I feel like in December, you released an album, Primer.
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing the magic up, because this song, Your Magic, was supposed to be on Primer. It was something that I had wanted to end the album. I ended up leaving it off because it's really personal to me. I had lost my cat. His name was Yoshi. I lost him the first of the year last year. And he was a little up there. He was 14, and I'm sure you probably love animals too. And he was my buddy. He was my boy. So it was something I was writing while he was alive still, and we were taking care of him and just enjoying our time. So when I finished that up, Your Magic is something that just became this paramount thing to finish. But the album was already slated to go out at a certain time, so I decided ultimately that Your Magic definitely was a unique thing that could stand on its own, and uh, and I was wanted to wait until that specific day to release it.
I mean, I love it. I'm sorry to hear about Yoshi's loss. I'm a big cat guy. I currently have 4 cats. 2 of them are 15 and 2 of them are 10. And many cats
Beautiful.
throughout the years. Hey, I'm just cutting back in here because I realized that I just broke the cardinal rule of journalism, and I didn't give you my cats' names. So Puck and Rosie are 15 years old. I got those guys when I was working at the newspaper. They were living under the dumpster. And Giroux and Daisy, Giroux named after Claude Giroux, are 10 years old. Now back to the podcast. So I'm sorry to hear about that, but I think that's a lovely tribute to honor your cat like that.
Oh, it means so much to me coming from another cat guy too, man. And I hope your cats live so long. And as you know, every moment with them is just beautiful. You know, I think I did the math. They age about 7 times faster than us. So now I have 2 right now too, and they're best. They're like in love, a little girl and then a little boy. So I'm glad they're young and they're like in love. So having cats, you have cats. Just anyone who hasn't had that bond with a cat, you know what I mean. But it's really about anybody. That song, anything moment that you want to hold special is what that song is about. And that's the cool thing about life in general is that you can just be happy in the moment, and it's not just about memories. It's about really being here. And I'll leave it at that. But we're all having a little bit of magic inside of us that does kind of go somewhere afterwards. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, as a cat fan, like I said, there are not enough songs written about cats. The ones that come to mind, there was a band called the Weaker Thans that I loved in high school. I still love them. And the guy, John K. Sampson, is the lead singer of the Weaker Thans. And he wrote 3 songs about his cat named Virtue. His cat, and the first one, I can't remember I think the first one was just like from the cat's perspective. Then the second one was the cat ran away and like what the cat did while it was running away or like while it was gone. And then the last one was when the cat ultimately, unfortunately, passed away. But I always think about that when there's plenty of songs written about dogs and other animals, but I don't think there's enough written about cats.
I love that connection you made too. And I've heard of this band, The Weeknd, before. I was big into the punk scene when I was younger. So it's really cool. I have to check out what you said about the songs he's written from his cat point of view, especially sounds really interesting.
Yeah, big one of my favorite bands, honestly, and yeah, it's funny. I think we're about the same age. So you mentioned that you were into punk bands. When did you first start getting into music? Like, what was the inspiration? Did you something you heard, or like how did you start playing?
Well, I love this question. So when I was growing up, I was a skateboarder. I started skateboarding when I was 11 years old, and a lot of my taste in music, and I just speaking with someone about this recently, came from a video series called 411
I
Video
remember.
Magazine.
Yeah.
You remember? Well, you know the soundtracks to those skate videos were as good as the skating, right? And you would get exposed to all these songs that you may not even listen to that genre at the time, right? Like they would have things like Machine Gun by the Commodores or DJ Shadow on this record, the same as like punk music. And so my taste was totally developed by listening to the skate videos and 411 VM soundtracks.
Oh,
Number
it's
one.
awesome. I totally relate with that. I completely agree. Yeah, it was like the skate videos, the surfing videos, like they all and that was how I found bands that I liked, like AFI back when they were like a California like surf punk band. Like they were on the soundtrack next to Moby Porcelain. And I'm just like, holy shit, man. Like I love all of this stuff.
I love Moby Porcelain, by the way. That's a great reference. And AFI. I always listen to that song God Called in Sick Today as a kid. Great song, great record that was on too.
So you were into the punk scene and then yeah, when did you start playing music?
So I had met a lot of people through skateboarding, and skateboarding and music always goes hand in hand. And I'll be honest, I always wanted to be a musician when I was younger, and I would go to the punk shows they would hold at the VFWs and wherever they were being held, libraries, event halls around town. We would go. We would be the kids moshing, and that comes with a certain level of carelessness or recklessness when you're a kid, and I think that also goes hand in hand with punk and wanting to just be anti-authority. I look back and I was always the kid with crazy hair, and skateboarding on lunch break and possibly busting my ass. Like, I started high school with the ACL injury and on crutches.
Ooh.
And I continued skating until I was 19, and I was working and I hurt myself, and it was after that I decided that I probably won't go pro after I had two ACL injuries, one in each knee. But having all these people around me in the punk and skate scene led me to dating this girl who gave me a guitar, which I still have, and she was a very talented musician in her own right. I remember her doing a cover of System of a Down's Toxicity on piano
Oh wow.
when I was yeah, when I was like 14. And I remember it was one of those like Tascam 4-track recorders with a cassette in it, and I always remember being impressed by that. But I still have that guitar. So since you asked, that's how I got into playing music. And I remember learning like Pixie songs and like punk songs. Like I tried to learn Face to Face Disconnected, which is a pretty easy song, but I always love that song. Do you know that song?
Yeah, yeah, I do know that.
These bands were essential to growing up in our era, and you don't see that type of music as much anymore. But it was great to grow up with this style. I think it gave us it went with our always being outside, being like a wild life all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it was that kind of thing. Like, you had the song, you would watch the videos, and then you would have the song in your head while you're skating down the street, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Or blaring it on headphones while you're skating, and nothing beats falling on your head when you have headphones on, right?
So what kind of guitar was it that you were gifted?
I am trying to remember. I think it's an Ibanez.
Is it
I think
acoustic
it's
or
an
an
Ibanez.
electric?
It's an Ibanez acoustic. It's black.
Oh, cool.
And it honestly was extremely difficult to play. I'm not gonna lie. The action on it is really high, and I honestly credit my ability to play guitar with the fact that this guitar would give me calluses and blood bleeding fingers, and just it was so hard to play, and it was almost daunting at times, and I thought I would like never get good. But I was encouraged to stick with it because if I got good at that, then I would, electric guitar would feel a lot easier, and that's very true. I don't play that guitar anymore just because it's extremely difficult on the fingers, but it was cool learning on it because I did have this like, learned on something difficult, and then everything seems easy by comparison now.
Yeah, and there is that like extra element of punk songs on acoustic. Like, I think there was that series Punk called Acoustic, Punk Gone Acoustic, that came out, and then like every now and
Oh
again
yeah.
you would hear like an acoustic version. It was usually on like a sampler, or something like that, and then so yeah, and then I think there's like something to be said about transcribing an electric song and playing it on the acoustic and making it your own. Did you find that experience?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it seems something that would be pretty, 101, but it's actually making the song that could have a certain arrangement work on acoustic and having it just be okay with just those melodies. That is something that I take in songwriting all the time. Like, is it going to sound good with just what I'm putting it to now? If you strip back every other element, like back in the day before I learned music, it was just a cool alternate version. And I did always love alternate versions. So when you brought up like doing stuff acoustic, good acoustic was awesome to me as well. I always love those series, or when bands did alternate or acoustic versions. And I always liked it when they did it slightly different than the studio version, but retained all the melodies, and best parts of it. So I think taking a song that would normally sound great with a ton of riffs and making sure that that translates to just a guy and a guitar. Even like if I could take my songs that have harmonica, do they still sound good if I don't play them with the harmonica? I do ask myself that stuff when it's in the composition stage for sure. But I think it's a beautiful thing. It's almost like learning it a different way. Sometimes when I play acoustic versions, I'll learn it in a different tuning.
Yeah, and that actually, I want to ask you, what is your songwriting process like? Because you mentioned the composition phase, and adding in other instruments, like adding a harmonica versus a guitar. So how do you go about writing a song?
I love this question. So a lot of my songs started off with words, believe it or not. Nowadays, when I write something, a lot of it's the music is first, where I'll just be sitting at home in some unique tuning that I am into at the moment, and just playing some riffs out. But before, it was very heavily word based, and the reason the song order is what it is on this album is because the song "Wrong Turn" is the first song that I wrote as Just Wiln. I was asked to write a song for our friend's memorial, which is where I ended up meeting my producer Greg at this funeral type of memorial concert. And I played Wrong Turn at this place in McGuinn's years ago after this guy Ed Carbone passed away. And he was a great drummer from Hamilton. I wanted to mention his name because he is how I met Greg. And Ed Carbone, if he was still alive, would definitely be famous. He was an amazing drummer. And rest in peace, brother. But I played this song "Wrong Turn" because I was asked to play at this memorial concert, and so all these emotions were going through my mind at the time. This guy that was super popular, and everybody knew him in my hometown. Had just no one knew he had really had any sort of issues, mental health issues, and when he passed away, it was a shock. So "Wrong Turn" it could reflect that story, but it doesn't have to be about that. It's honestly about a lot of these places that I would drive by, whether that be for work or just leisure time, driving in these remote areas in New Jersey where it's just kind of scary looking if you look at it, and you're like, this is not somewhere I want to, have a flat tire or something. It's some kind of place that you would, get lost trying to find an exit. And those type of places kind of were like a reflection of the wrong turns we can make in terms of choices, because anything can happen out there. And there's a certain type of unique feeling. Like I remember whenever we would even drive to the beach as kids, sometimes, my parents would get lost, and there was no cell phones or anything back in the day. So it was kind of a unique, like you're kind of in this mode where it's a little bit of anxiety. Like, you're going to make it home, but you have no idea where you're at. And I kind of let that bleed into the lyricism. And I feel like the discontent that people feel sitting around in their hometown, trying to do something with their life. And I know that during certain times, especially like 2020, when everybody was just sitting at home, I would go take drives in the country with my wife all the time, and just to get out and get some fresh air. And we would drive by places we had never been to before, and that's kind of a separate thing that bled into the final version. But the original version was pretty much the same lyrics. And so that was actually the catalyst for this album all these years ago. I believe that was 2017 when I wrote that song, and the song "Bring Me Down." I played those two songs at that show. So the songwriting process for these two songs that are on this album was very much lyrics first. Lyrics about how we all used to gamble together, things like that. Just having friends, and how you never know if the group of friends you have now is going to be the group of friends that you're with in a year or however long. But the times you have when you're younger, you just think it's never going to end. There's every night's going to, be a party for a while. Every Friday is going to be poker night for a while. And then one day you just don't see certain people anymore. So I'm sure as a fellow artist, you've caught on to the gambling references throughout the record.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, it just kind of comes to the territory of being here in New Jersey, right?
Oh, definitely. And you being in Atlantic City, I mean, every time I go down there, I mean, I know that some people have a gambling problem, but I feel compelled to gamble if I'm in a cool place like that. I like the vibe of casinos. I'm not a huge fan of the cigarette smoke because I'm a former smoker, but I do love to gamble, and I think it's having a discernment about that in a way, because I don't gamble too much anymore.
I'm with you. I only gamble when people come from out of town. That's the only time. Other than that, the only reason I go to the casino is to see concerts.
Now that is a good reason to go to the casino.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned that you wrote this song in 2017. So how did it evolve? Like, did you always have a fully fleshed out version, or like as you because on the record credits, it says that you played the bass, the drum machine, multiple guitars, and the harmonica. So is it as you learned more instruments, you added to the song, or how did the song evolve to what we hear opening up Primer?
I love this question as well. So I had a version of this song which was myself playing guitar and drum machine that I learned electronic music about 15 years ago, and it was really a cyclical thing for me because it went from me needing a metronome to record my demos to, so they were in a time and I could do delays and stuff I wanted to, and then the drum machine came from that because the metronome click sounds annoying, you can't keep that. So then I learned how to program drum machines, and from there I got into synths, which was a huge step for me, as well, learning like the piano as opposed to the guitar. It's way different, but kind of similar. And then it went. I had a version of this album, believe it or not, in 2022 that I had given to my producer Greg to see which songs we should record, and it's remarkably similar to the final album actually. Especially since you asked. So there was a version that I gave him, and it had kind of a drum machine, almost like a Radiohead-ish. If you're familiar with Radiohead, their Amnesiac type era
Yeah.
drum machine sound, uh, and that's a great record. Just wanted to point. I love that record. I'm not sure it's one of their lesser known records, but I was always a huge fan of that record. The song I Might Be Wrong in particular.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. I remember my friend was a big Radiohead fan, so I was kind of forced to listen to all their stuff in the car, you know?
I totally relate to being forced to listen to it because when I when I first started dating my wife, she kind of felt like that, and now she asked me to put on certain Tom York songs, and we watched the Smile concert when they had it streaming. You could pay like you were there. We watched the entire thing like edge of our seats, like super impressed.
Oh, that's awesome. And he has an album out with Flea coming up. He's coming out with an album with Flea.
I saw that. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah,
I like the song. What do you think of that song?
yeah, it was good. Yeah, I listened to it. So we're recording this on a Saturday, so I think the song came out yesterday or this past week. And yeah, I just listened to it. I liked it.
I love to see jazz being released these days
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general.
absolutely.
And I think Flea's a very talented trumpeter. I mean, I don't know about uh, my tastes are kind of interesting, but I love playing the album Bitches Brew by Miles Davis.
That's a good
And
one.
it is such an interesting, unique album. And I just feel like if I'm stuck with anything, whether it be songwriting or if I have an issue with anything that I'm trying to solve, I put on Bitches Brew because I feel like it melts my brain a little bit and allows me to form new connections here in that music.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big jazz fan too, and it's interesting to see. Now, are you influenced by? Because you mentioned electronic, you've mentioned jazz. Did you Did you bring those ideas into the studio? Were you like, what was the impetus for the album? Where you're like, hey, I have all these sounds that I want to put down as an album, or how? What was that process like?
So the first thing where I knew it was an album was when I wrote the song No Future. This song is the first song I wrote when I tuned my guitar to an open tuning. And I know it's like very commonplace. I did not know that. I didn't grow up playing in bands or anything. I was very like musically isolated. I would play covers and just write little riffs to myself. But I never had like I was in around the band scene, but I was just never in a band. And so when I was first learning about alternate tunings, it was kind of honestly a little bit challenging sounding. Like I didn't want to forget how to play what I knew. And it honestly, as soon as I tuned to this unique tuning, an open D type tuning, I had written No Future, the riffs for the song within a couple of hours. And I loved how I had to kind of like learn where the notes were again on the guitar. And these open tunings are I feel like it's almost easier. It's in a way it's easier to make the guitar speak or talk. Like if you're thinking of a line or you're thinking of a riff in these open tunings, it could be easier for those type of ideas to come out. As much as it's more of a challenge to learn where the notes are. I don't know really about jazz, and I don't really know about electronic music at the times that I started doing them. I kind of dove in. I learned a lot about music from producing beats actually, and I have like a huge collection of electronic music. You may not think that ever from hearing either this album or um, some of my earlier work that I released, but having those skills as an electronic producer has allowed me to make some of the drums for this album where you may not think it's a drum machine or that it was based in samples that I got from the studio and then chopped it up into one hits and made the drum beats out of that with like the variations that you would hear. A lot of them are my friend drumming on my producer drumming on the album live. But there are certain tracks where the preliminary or the rehearsal that we had, I love the guitar and vocals, but that the drums were, you kind of, just more simple. And I had something in mind where I would, you know, take those drums and then do drum machine stuff, mix them together. So even the drum machine songs where I'm credited as a drum machine, you will hear a lot of that is even real drumming or stuff that I used, a drum trigger to replace the sound but kept the performance, or chopped it up and made the fill where I wanted the fills to be. Because I do have a very specific vision for like all the songs, and how they came to be the way that they are was, for some of them, hours and hours in the studio, recording different beats, recording different parts, and then a lot of times not even leaving those parts in. Um, but other ones, it was just we went in, we did one take, and that's what you hear on the album for particularly the second song, Entropy. And that song, I always love the song. The recording was mediocre that I had from the board, and I used the skills that I gained as a electronic music artist behind the scenes, and from watching Greg, because he's really a master in the studio, and he's a master at finishing stuff and doing those parts where the song just sounds a little bit unfinished, and you add a little harmonic or a little riff on top, and that's it. That's the magic. Um, and I didn't know about those moments and stuff like that. I got it a little bit into my past as a punk kid, and then I worked in corporate jobs for years, and I was in finance for a long time, believe it or not, until 2022 when I had quit. And when you quit your job, as in your late 30s, and you have made a bunch of money in savings, it really feels like you can do anything if you want to go that route. And what I chose to do at that time when I quit my finance job, because I just couldn't deal with being in an office anymore and the weird stress of that work. I just knew there was something better for me, so I took off, and I called Greg up and I said, I want to do music full time. Let's record some of these songs. And we had actually both always gone to this place, Wallingford, which is where we ended up playing my first show at. Wallingford is a sweet area out we call it the Boondocks. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's like a little, almost like a town, and it's a colonial era, and it was donated to Monmouth County. So like beautiful, like rural area, and there's a mill there, and it's just like a historic site. And we ended up getting my first show there together when we would just go there and practice. And one day we were recording one of the songs in the old mill, and he found the most resonant point in the room. I don't know if you ever been with someone who did that. Like, there's a point in every room where it's the most resonant point, and any sound kind of resonates on itself. I had no idea about that. And
No.
and we sat there in this old, and he found the spot where like any note just like resonated. I still have this recording somewhere, and we did get offered to play a show there, and that would be the first show that I ever played. And I went from kind of never ever being in a band to now I had a paid gig where I had to play 3 hours. It was kind of interesting. And I had never really done anything other than open mic nights or those one or two songs at an event. So it was really interesting for me to have to plan out 30 plus songs for this first show that we played in 2022. And it was an acoustic show. I have a fairly good recording of that. The wind kind of, if you're recording outside and it's heavy wind, sometimes it ruins the recordings, but I do have a recording of that show. We played a lot of the songs on this album at that show. And it was kind of surreal to go from just, being kind of a random dude to getting a paid gig. And since then, I've actually, any gig that I did, I would always, get paid because that's what I was advised. Like, once you get a paid gig, you should always get paid. And I've been fortunate to play a ton of gigs over the past few years and play my own music. And that was just one of the things where anytime I play live, I have to play at least 50% of my songs, or I'm just not a cover band. But I love covers, and a lot of the covers I play are songs I would hear like I said earlier on MTV 120 Minutes, and I try to play stuff that's a little less known, but maybe was bigger at the time, like the song "Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth" by Primitive Radio Gods. Are you familiar with that song?
I'm not.
It's a song that was in the movie The Cable Guy, and you seem
Okay,
like
that
a
that I've
true
seen.
music buff. I would advise you to check out this song. It's a cool song. I do a cover of it on my YouTube at this place, Wallingford, which was not my first show there, but it was my second show there. But you'll see, it's this really great song with it samples BB King. It was one of the first songs I heard that had sampling in it, and I guess I didn't really know that it had sampling in it. I didn't know what sampling was, but I knew it had this really cool voice with a hip hop beat and this beautiful piano and these really meaningful lyrics. And I would see this video on MTV as a kid, and I'm getting into this song because it really has shaped like my sound as a kid. Like when you hear this song, to me it sounds like the entire 90s in one song. And so I would advise you or anyone, or I would recommend anybody listen to this song. It's a really cool song, and Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth and stuff like that is what I try to play live. And I know a lot of people would when I go out, a lot of people want to hear the hits. You know what I mean? Like "Hot for Teacher," I hear, and things like that. Like just songs everyone knows from every era. And I would honestly, even though they said play covers, I would still use that opportunity to just play covers that I loved. And yeah, maybe they sold millions of records in the '90s, but they're not songs that everyone listens to all the time. Another one, "Dreams" by the Cranberries. Do you know that song?
I don't. I know a lot of Cranberries songs, but I don't know if I know that one. Like, just the title doesn't ring a bell.
I hear you, but I'm sure you probably heard it as well. Like things like that, you know what I mean? Where you've heard the band, you may not know the song. I try to give a lot of airtime when I play live covers to songs like that. And I think I think anyone who would hear this album would know that it's a love letter to the '90s music. I think that I grew up listening to. Um, as someone who grew up in that era, I'm sure you can hear that I loved Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really like the entire album. I'm glad you mentioned Entropy because that was one of the songs that I really liked. It's the second song. Can you tell me a little bit of it more about that? You said you wrote it early on, and then what about the version that ended up on the record?
So thank you very much for the love on that song. And I had written this song during a period where I was kind of falling out with uh, a couple of friends, and it wasn't over anything, serious. And it just reminded me of this subject that because I love science, and I had heard this word entropy, which is kind of how everything falls apart, or kind of scientifically it would be the measure of randomness or disorder in a system. But it's really kind of how everything goes from an ordered state to a disordered state. It doesn't go the other way around. And I was relating this to the whatever conflict or little whatever I was going through, and I was wondering whether or not it was a good idea to write a song about a word that's very scientific sounding, but then when you hear the song, it's like every line is based basically off of a rhyme that started with that word. And it was one of those songs that you really kind of don't think about writing in a way. I don't know. I'm sure it could be said better than that, but I'm sure other artists who write would understand what I mean. That there's some songs you really spend, what for me, one line, write it down, come back to it later. It adds up at the end. This one came together all at once, immediately, and I made a demo. I sent it to Greg, and we were going to rehearse for one of my shows the next day, and that recording is he was like, we need to rehearse this song if you want to play it live, and we need to play it to a metronome. And so the recording that you hear on the album is actually the only time that it was ever played really in the studio, and we didn't do more than one take. So it's just that one time that it was ever played in the studio. And when I found this recording, I had forgotten about it. At the time, we were doing a lot more shows and still recording other parts of other songs, and so I was really focused on that. And I actually found this recording about 5 months ago, and I it was muddy a little bit, and so I cleaned it up, and I said I can finish this. And so what you're hearing is the original drums and guitar, and I recorded the bass and the electric slide myself in overdubs, but I actually kept the original vocals. I didn't do any vocal overdubs. There are some doubles in the choruses, but I took the doubles, and for the non-audio files, a double is just where you sing the same part twice and the producer stacks it. Everyone from the Beatles and Nirvana did this. It just is like a thickening. You could use a chorus effect, but it's way more natural when you sing two different copies of a performance and then you layer them, possibly panning one to the left or the right, vocal stacking. And so I was able to do that by the fact that certain songs choruses do repeat, of course. And so I would take one chorus from the one part and then stack it over the other one and vice versa, believe it or not. But it's just one vocal take and one guitar take, one drums, and I recorded the other instruments afterwards. And the lyrics were there from day one. And this song to me is the reason it's number two is I would have put this song first, but Wrong Turn was always supposed to be the start of this album's story. But Entropy is really what this album is about. And it honestly, and I love that you mentioned my photography earlier. The cover is a photograph that I had taken years ago, and I'd always loved it. And it to me, it's a very beautiful image. I know it's like an ugly image. It's very caustic or rust-like, and I was a big fan of Nine Inch Nails when I was a kid. I don't know if that's a good thing to say but I would have their albums when I was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. I was buying their albums. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with their cover art. A lot of times very tactile and like texture based.
Yeah.
Metals and I was influenced a lot by the album The Downward Spiral, if you're familiar with that cover.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know it. And
yeah.
it's a cool piece of art. The artist makes a lot. I love the Teeth and Salt art from that album as well. And so when it came for this album, I feel like there's like you mentioned, a bit of a heavier, more metal sound or more metallic sound in this image. Immediately, and I know this sounds, I don't want to sound too esoteric, but I was falling asleep one night, and I know that Salvador Dali and other artists would fall asleep with a key over a metal plate
Yep.
to purposely like wake up right at that time. And I just happened to be falling asleep and was like, this is the cover. This is the font for the word primer. The word primer over that background is a bit of a cognitive dissonance because this image, it needs some primer.
Right.
But,
right.
But that's not what primer means. Necessarily, it means a bunch of things. But if you look up the word, right, it's kind of a cap that is the basis for an explosion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it is at both of those meanings, like, and in a way, this album is a total cap on all this work that I was doing for this part of my life, like from 2017 until even this when I released the album in December. Believe it or not, I was finishing songs up until 2 days before I uploaded it
Oh,
to
wow.
DistroKid. And because I am a little bit of a perfectionist on certain things, but I definitely took it upon myself to say certain songs were very produced. I wanted to take the raw performances that I had of other songs and finish them to create this balance. Because I feel like growing up, I would listen to albums, right? And some of it would be very clearly one style of music, or you would hear that it was recorded in a different room for other songs and maybe with different producers and different instruments, or, I didn't really know how bands work. Could be different band members doing different contributions. The case of Trent Reznor doing almost everything himself and having the live band as like an accessory. But I kind of took it upon myself to say, okay, this is a cap on this period in my life. Knowing the word primer and having this image, it just kind of one night all came together, that it's done. And these are the songs. And there are a couple other songs that I wanted on there, like Magic. And I have a couple more surprises, a little bookends on this period. There's a couple of other recordings that were also rehearsal recordings that I'm working on and wanted to be on here. But at the same time, I feel like albums can get bloated. Even great albums can just get really long, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just like you'll be listening to, I love this song, but was it the heavy song in the first third? If you listen to the track list of this one, I really didn't want any of the songs to be very reminiscent of the one before it. I wanted there to be almost like cinematic quality where each song is a scene in this story, and it makes me really happy that you like all the songs. I love a lot of albums where I like most of the songs or I adore some of the songs, and other ones are could rightfully so sometimes a little bit more throwaway or jokey skits, things like that. I felt like if I'm going to put out an album, what's the reason for me putting this album out? One of the reasons is because in this current artist climate is because you're expected to make singles and milk those singles for pieces of content and just make so many different pieces of content and blast the algorithm with the same song. And I respect all the artists that are doing it this way right now. But just for me, it didn't feel right to do that with these songs. They belong together for me. And I really am just in it for the art. So I wanted to have an album where if I even never made another piece of music under the name Just Wiln, that it would be something that compiles anything that I did for this time in my life and something that I would want to hear 50 years ago, 100 years in the future, when I'm a 90-year-old man, when I was a 12-year-old kid getting into skateboarding. And I wanted it to be something that any version of me or anybody, with my mindset would enjoy looking back. And I realized I hadn't released any full lengths, but I had so many songs in progress. When it all came together this night in, I believe it was November, where I was like, this album is getting released. I finished everything on my own. I got the album art done, and it just felt right. I filmed pieces of content for the songs that I felt like I wanted to stand out. But there was a reason I didn't do the traditional model right now. And it's not because I'm trying to be defiant. I know it would be a lot easier for me to get out there if I was doing all the, basically you're expected to be, your own manager and everything unless you hire people for this stuff. I wanted it really truly to be about the music. And so for the videos that you see on YouTube, for the 3 singles or whatever videos I filmed, lyric videos, one of them being Entropy, I went to spots that meaningful to me around here at Sunset and made sure that I just filmed one take. And I didn't want it to be flashy or that I went to, find some crazy get up to wear or anything. I wore all black for a reason. I wanted, I don't know if you ever seen the show Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm a big fan of David Lynch and Twin Peaks in general, and that's the reason I went with the green font for the videos. It really stands out against the sunset as well. And these songs are about real things to me. I love music that's poetic and hypothetical storytelling. It's great. It's beautiful. One thing about this album is it's it's all real. It's all either based in stories that I've lived through or real people, actual events, and real topics like the word entropy, which is something that we deal with every day without even knowing it, because that's how we get old. So this album really just, it's meant to bookend or cap a certain part of my creative life. And therefore I can move on and with these other songs that I do have in the works. And whether or not I'm going to release which ones under the name Just Wiln, or I have a couple of extra little side project things I've been working on. I would be happy if Magic was the last song, say, I ever released under this moniker, or that album was the only full length that I ever did. I would be just very proud of it. And I'm happy with the work that Greg did on the album. And I think that I will probably either produce everything myself moving forward, or I would be open to work with another producer, because you get to a point, right, where you become very comfortable working with somebody, and certain creative collaborations take you to a point where, that's as far as it can take you at that moment. And I'm fortunate that we did so much together and did this last show at McGuinn's last year. But it's kind of freeing to have this record out now. I feel like I can be okay with the versions that I have. I don't think music being recorded, especially in studios or professionally, should be focused on obsessing over the sound itself, or trying to hone in on a style. I think it's really important to any musician, and it's hard to even articulate it, so to speak, but I wish someone had told me, like, spend more time getting the ideas out than honing the sound, because you can get very obsessive over sounds, As a music producer, I think the common meme or whatever is to just say you spend hours listening to snares. You waste your whole night listening to a snare, like trying to find the right snare sound. Where if you had one snare sound or two snare sounds, you'd find the snare and be writing riffs over it.
Totally.
And so just to cap that question you asked me about the process, I think it's something that went from me being making these home demos where I had this whole basic like demo version of this album, which I've contemplated releasing the original demos of these songs because I love them, especially like No Future, and other songs. There's acoustic versions where it for me for years was the definitive version, and that song in particular I wouldn't even put words to it until it was all finished and I knew that it was something really special. And mental health is another topic on this album, which I think mental health is very commercialized, commodified these days. It's more accepted, but you're also more expected to just work through it. And this album and this song, No Future in particular, it really is about being positive. And one of the things that helps me day to day that I forget where I learned it from, but just to say out loud or say to yourself, this outcome can be better than I expected. This is something I say to myself before I really do anything. Like maybe I learned it when I was skateboarding, even back then, or just like visualizing something happening right before you do it and having that visualization have a positive outcome. It sounds hokey, but that is what it's about. No Future is about having a future. It's about, realizing that life doesn't have to be perfect for you to say, I'm going to go out and take my chance. It's like people who have kids, they'll say, oh, we weren't ready to have kids until we had the kid. Then we made ourselves get ready. For me, this was about, I didn't know what I was going to be doing when I quit this like very stable job in finance. But if you feel that something's, you've worn out your welcome with a certain thing, it's okay to say, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but just take that step. It's not about necessarily knowing everything that's going to happen. Same thing as like, it's not about practicing so many songs on guitar every day as much as this for me is to pick up the guitar and play riffs every day. I don't have to sit there for hours. Just like when I work out, I don't have to do 800 push-ups. You know, it's like
Totally.
it's just basically getting out there and doing. You surf, so I mean,
Yeah, it's about getting the reps in, right? Getting out there and paddling and paddling in the waves, and yeah, it's the same. I think it's the same thing with music, right? Just picking up the guitar and playing, or doing something creative. It
exactly.
is a muscle, right? The
Yeah, it
creativity is
is
a
in a way.
muscle. Yeah,
Oh, I like the way you said that. It really is. And you
yeah,
don't have to bolt. You don't have to be jacked on creativity constantly. But it just going out there, like you said, you don't have to focus on, oh, I'm going to do a 360 and film it today, or like I'm going to go out there and do a kickflip over this set of stairs today. It's just if you just go out there and do something and it's what you love, then you will get better at it. It's like, you know, um, I know that there are so many guys that I respect who play guitar so much better than me. And I know that if I practice jazz scales all the time and did this, these routines, that I would probably be, more along those lines of a player rather than a composer. But for me, I think this album was me coming to terms with like you can always keep going with things, and some songs especially are never finished or never finished feeling. But once you decide like, okay, I'm going to get this idea out rather than obsess over the individual components of it or the sound, in every single way. I think as long as the composition is there and what you want to say is there, it's okay to say, I'm going to release this now. And no one was there to tell me that, like when to release music. I've had the recordings of No Future, The Air We Breathe, and some other songs for since 2022, believe it or not. And I think it's knowing as a musician when something's okay to put it out, and I was like saving these songs for, I guess, a hypothetical time in the future where I was further along than I wanted to be, and I just realized that anything can happen. I want an album out there that I'm happy with, that reflects who I am as an artist and the things I want to say, and I don't think I need to get too much into the lyrics to. If you hear the album, it's about mental health, and definitely was okay with making some of the lyrics for someone else. And I think that's also a lot of people write for other people. Most of my work is written for me. And I think this album was something saying, well, I do want to put some sort of good message out there, and it was finding that balance. And I think the song No Future does that. It allows me to get this like some sort of message into the world without it sounding hokey to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a great track, and honestly, I think I love the you mentioned before about driving. I like the driving motif of the album. It starts out with Wrong Turn, it ends with Exit Sign. There's a song called Eyes on the Road, Appellation, and then one of the songs I really liked was Rust Belt. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, as somebody, I went to school up in Buffalo, they call that the Rust Belt. But if I'm not mistaken, that's an instrumental track, right?
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned this song, Sean. It's a song that is a thing I was working on when it was snowing one day, coincidentally, and I was messing with this delays on my acoustic. And so I have a version of that song that is just an acoustic with some unique delays, and it was snowing outside. You can't hear it in the recording, but it's super peaceful. And I was gonna put that out as part of whatever maybe companion to this in the future. And so when I brought that in the studio, Greg started playing this drums, and we're like, oh, this could have this drum beat. And then he was like, I like what the delay you were working on the acoustic version. So he made up this pedal board on the spot, and it was like, I think it was like 8 pedals in a row or something. There was a tube screamer in there, a multi delay, and we discussed the routing, and then we played a couple of versions of that song, and that's what you're honestly hearing on the final version as well. At the very core of it is just Greg and I playing this in the studio. It's in a very weird tuning. I can't remember the exact tuning that it's in. I believe I know which one. I know that once it might actually even not be in a weird tuning. It might just be that I think actually it might not be in a weird tuning. It was just these chords that I was making up for that particular song, and it just felt this new version almost gave me like a funk vibe, and also like a Midwest vibe. And I've gone as far west as Pittsburgh, but there are areas in PA and New Jersey that are you would call Rust Belt, and I'd heard this term, and I'd gone to Bethlehem, PA, which I don't know gave me. I played a show there, and it gave me that vibe, like all these industrial type of, but it's also kind of country and like sparse. It just kind of stuck as the title, and like I knew what it meant, right? But it's like it's one of those kind of places where it's like industrial rust almost in a way, right? Like something
Definitely.
where it used.
Yeah, I was gonna say like where there was a lot of industry, and you can kind of see like even Atlantic City is kind of like it in a way. It's not exactly a Rust Belt, but like where the manufacturing has gone away, right? But in Atlantic City, it's like the casinos. Like the casinos used to be the big draw. They've kind of gone away. Well, Asbury Park was like that. I feel like it has that kind of to bring back a word we were talking about before, the entropy, where Asbury Park was this big amusement center, and then it kind of like went away. So it like you see the remnants of what was this great city and what gave these people an identity, and now it's just kind of specifically the Rust Belt, that whole manufacturing area.
So I'm glad I asked you what you thought it meant, because that's a great explanation what you just said. I love what you said. Just basically where there was industry that went away, and now it's like the remnants of that.
Yeah.
It is beautiful in a way, though, isn't it? Like just driving by it, I don't know. It gives me a feeling that like nothing else does, and that's why I tried to reflect it in the art. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I went to school in Buffalo, and there's all these old grain silos, and it looks awesome, right? But I mean, they're dilapidated and falling down, and but it looks super cool. A great place for photographers, that's for sure.
Right, a great place for photographers, exactly. And I'm glad that you brought that track up. And I did feel like it's a little on the nose having actual rust on the cover, with that song title, but it's funny. Like instrumental music is a big part of what I'm always doing, and I think just having that song and the other instrumental was me being like, yeah, instrumental music is a part of what I do, and I feel like any album should be reflective of that. And I love Midwest music. That's type of style, like they call it Midwest emo or whatever you call it, but it's a lot of like alternate tunings, riffs, sometimes unique time signatures, things like that. It doesn't always have vocals, and I feel like Rust Belt for me is that. Like if I had one song that's kind of like that, there's Rust Belt, and then the other song on there is called Look Away. Both of those songs are to me like, if you like that Midwest emo type of style, that's my songs in that style. That's how I always kind of thought of them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, I love the album. Yeah, it's called Primer. If you want to check it out anywhere you can get your music, basically. I was listening to it on Spotify. Do you have a preferred place that you want people to listen to it?
I always just pump my Bandcamp
Of
link
course.
because you can hear the waves, the wave files. But any way you hear it, I'm just glad to know that people would be listening and hearing it, and I hope you take something positive from hearing it. But yeah, Bandcamp is always great, and they're really about the artists. So I'm happy that I've always been able to use my Bandcamp
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
for the
so
wave files.
so just Wylan, I ask every guest three final questions, but before I get to that, was there anything that I didn't ask that you think I should have asked, or anything that you want to mention?
Mm, Honestly, I had a great time talking to you about the record. I thought your questions were very insightful. I'm glad you enjoyed the album as a fellow creative person. It meant a lot to me when you reached out about it. All I want to say is that if you hear the album, definitely check out the song Your Magic. I have some more plans for Just Wild for sure in the future, some more bookends for this album. But for now, I am super proud of that song in particular, kind of capping out this era. I am writing a lot, and I plan on playing some shows. I am looking for some possible band members to play some songs with. So I'm working on some set lists, and I do have some surprises. So check out the album, and stay tuned for maybe another couple of singles in the coming months. But Sean, I really appreciate you having me on the show, and that you're a fan of the album, and that you mentioned the driving aspect. That's when I heard it the most. So if you guys listen to the album, my favorite place to play it is in country roads in New Jersey. Wherever it's good to hear it, I would love to hear where you enjoyed the album if you end up listening to it.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. I love to hear that. Yeah, and I'll link up your Bandcamp and all of your socials, and all of your channels too on here, so people can find you. So I ask every guest the same three questions. So to close out these interviews. So the first one is, what was the first album that you either bought or received as a gift?
Great question. The first album that I ever bought, I think, was the Blue album by Weezer when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
And I still think My Name Is Jonas is their best song.
It's funny because that and Sweater are my two favorite Weezer songs.
Also amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, I think My Name Is Jonas was the song. I mean, of course, Buddy Holly came out, and like that was all over MTV and stuff. But
Right.
that was the song that made me a Weezer fan. I was like, oh yeah, I like this band.
Oh, you said it, man. There's just nothing like hearing Jonas if you haven't heard it for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to start your day.
It is like a burst of energy, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Awesome. So what was your first concert?
My first concert, I believe, was Blink 182.
Oh wow, where
When
so
they
where
did,
was that?
it was at the Camden, New Jersey, I believe,
Yeah.
in the was it the late 90s maybe, or the year 2000 possibly.
If you remember what it was called then, that'll probably give away the the era that it was.
Right. I'm trying to remember the tour name.
No, I
And
meant
Green Day,
what the Camden Waterfront Center was called. Like remember it was the Tweeter Center for the
the
for a
Tweeter Center,
yeah.
right? Yes,
That would have
that's
been
it. I couldn't.
yeah, that would have been late 90s, early 2000s.
I couldn't think of it, and it was Green Day and Blink, and I believe Saves the Day played as well, which I was a big fan of that band when I was growing up skating
Oh,
as well.
loved Saves the Day.
Oh, glad to hear another Saves the Day fan. Oh, their first two albums like were the soundtrack to me skating as a kid.
Yeah, and it was just great to hear that sound out of a. I felt like because I think Green Day is a West Coast band and Blinker is a West Coast band, and then Saves the Day is an East Coast band. So it was great to hear. And they're from like, what are they from? Like Long Island or something? Or are they from New Jersey? I think they might even from New Jersey, right?
From memory, I think the singer was from Princeton, New Jersey,
Yep.
which is not
Yeah.
far from me.
Yeah, so it's like it was great. It was for us. It was like the Bouncing Souls. It was like you have that Jersey pride, that local pride of like, this is our music.
Hey, good point. Right, like yeah, seeing them on such a stage with the West Coast huge pop punk bands like that, it was cool hearing it like an upgraded sound of them live because I saw them in smaller clubs too, and that was after that, and it was cool to like think back. I was like, well, the first time I saw them was like a big show.
That's awesome. And so that was like back when Green Day was in their wild era. I remember I didn't go, but I think it was '99. The FEZ, the festival that was there. I think the drums got set on fire at the Green Day set. But was there anything anything memorable about that concert that sticks out today?
That's a great question, and definitely, I remember Billy Joe climbing the giant amp stack, and it was. I mean, I thought it was pretty high up, and I don't know what kind of safety he had or if any, but I mean, it seemed like a pretty wild thing to do, to climb up so high on top of a big stack of amps like that. I mean, and I remember there was just a lot of energy in him playing the one song, "Time of Your Life," electric, which was different.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just thinking back that I got to see Blink with the original lineup back in the day, making a ton of dick jokes, of course, running around. I remember Tom running around the stage back and forth. And it just being a lot of fun, and just thinking back like that being my first concert just still blows my mind that I got to see those three bands who I like was buying their albums all in one concert. And yeah, that's what used to happen back in the day, right? You'd have cool concerts like that.
Yeah, and they didn't cost very much either. That was probably like a $20, $30 ticket or something.
Exactly. It was like $29, I think.
Yeah, crazy. So last question is, what is your favorite soundtrack or score from a movie? And musicals don't count, so it's got to be a movie.
Oh man, I love that question. So the first one that came to mind was the soundtrack to the movie The Crow.
Oh yeah,
there were a ton of good bands on that soundtrack. Nine Inch Nails, Stone Temple Pilots. It was the first time I ever heard the Jesus and Mary Chain. I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That soundtrack is incredible.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's a song on there that features Liz Fraser from the Cockatoo Twins. I'm trying to think of the name of the band, but it's on my playlist, and I even played it at the end of one of my shows. But that soundtrack by far, I know that a kid shouldn't really be watching that movie, but I love that you asked that. I wasn't expecting this question. I had the Crow soundtrack, was one of the first CDs that I ever bought, and I just think any grunge or metal fan or alternative rock from the '90s, it's The Cure. That song "Burn" that's in the movie, just an incredible soundtrack. I highly recommend that.
That's great. And I love asking this question because reasons like that, because I'm like, oh wait, I remember that. I can see the CD on my friend Sal's desk. We're in school. You know what I mean? Like I remember that being a good
That's
soundtrack,
awesome.
but I don't own it, so I'm gonna have to revisit that. So good pull, man. Well, Just
Let me know what
Wilin.
you think, man.
I will. Yeah, Just Wilin. Catch him on Bandcamp. And check out his social media. I'll link it all in the show notes. And then also check out his photography page, too. I'm going to put a link to that, too. And you can do a cool thing. You can listen to the music and you can look at the pictures. And it'll all come together for you. But don't do that while you're driving. So pick one. Either listen to the album and drive or look at the pictures and drive. But, Just Wilin, thanks again for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Sean, thank you so much, man. It was great talking to you, and I appreciate the kind words. And it was really a pleasure.
I don't think anyone wants to hear about football/soccer.
Oh man, I'm stoked. I'm in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven in El Cajon, California. Man, these are great questions.
I think the answers are probably better.